the twin suns of Avara burned high in the sky, casting golden light over the wide desert market. The air shimmered with heat, yet the marketplace was alive with color and sound. Merchants from many worlds had gathered, filling the air with strange scents of spices, roasted fruits, and glowing oils. Fabrics waved like banners in the warm wind, and traders called out in voices deep, sharp, or musical, depending on their species. Among them moved a young human traveler named Ryan. Ryan had come far across the desert, his boots covered with fine sand, his clothes worn from the journey. He was tired but curious. Avara was not Earth, yet the market reminded him of old tales of caravans and bazaars. He had heard that if someone looked carefully, they could find things here that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. He wondered if that rumor was true. As he walked past the bright stalls, his attention was caught by something different. In the center of the market stood a tent unlike the others. Its walls were made of silk so fine it seemed almost transparent, yet when the sunlight touched it, it shimmered like starlight. The colors shifted: blue, silver, gold, like the tent was alive. The air around it felt cooler, calmer, as though it belonged to another world. Ryan paused. Something about the tent pulled him closer. He looked at the sign outside, though he could not read the alien script. Still, curiosity burned inside him, stronger than caution. He pushed the silk curtain aside and stepped in. Inside, the world changed. The heat of the desert was gone, replaced by a soft, cool breeze that smelled faintly of flowers. Light filtered through the silk, painting the floor with waves of color. Ryan blinked in surprise. The inside was larger than it had seemed from outside. Rolls of glowing fabric hung neatly in rows, each shimmering faintly as though carrying hidden life. At the center of this quiet place stood a figure. She was tall, with gentle features and skin the shade of moonlit silver. Her hair was long and woven with tiny strands of light, almost like threads of the fabric around her. Her eyes, large and luminous, met Ryan's with a calm intensity. She wore a robe of flowing silk that glowed softly, making her look as though she belonged to the tent itself. For a moment, silence filled the air. Then the alien girl spoke, her voice quiet but clear. "You should not be here." Ryan blinked, slightly embarrassed. "Oh. I thought this was a shop. Is it not open?" She studied him for a long moment, then tilted her head. "It is a shop. But humans rarely enter. They say your kind asks too many questions." A small smile tugged at Ryan's lips. That might be true. But sometimes asking questions leads to good things. Something flickered in her eyes, though she did not smile back. She turned gracefully and touched one of the glowing fabrics. The silk responded, shifting its colors at her touch. "These fabrics are not for everyone," she said softly. "They are special." Ryan stepped closer, careful not to disturb anything. The tent felt sacred, almost alive. He glanced at the rolls of silk and then back at her. "Special things usually have special keepers. Are you the one who keeps them safe?" For the first time, the girl hesitated. Her hands stilled on the fabric, and her eyes dropped slightly. "My name is Myra," she said at last, her voice quieter than before. "I am the keeper of this place." Ryan nodded respectfully. "Then I am glad to meet you, Myra. My name is Ryan. I didn't mean to intrude." She studied him again, and though her expression stayed calm, her gaze lingered longer than before. It was as if she was trying to see beyond his words, to test if his presence was harmless or dangerous. Finally, she spoke. "You may look but do not touch. Ryan smiled and spread his hands. Agreed. Only looking. I promise. As he wandered slowly through the tent, he felt Myra's eyes following him. He could sense something hidden here, something beyond fabric and trade. The silk seemed alive, almost breathing. The colors shifted when he walked past, as though the fabric itself was curious about him. He had traveled many places, but he had never seen anything like this. When he turned back, Myra was still watching him, her expression unreadable. For a brief moment, their eyes met again, and in that quiet space filled with silk and color, Ryan felt the first spark of something unexpected. He had entered the tent only out of curiosity, but he left that evening with a restless heart. The silk had secrets, and so did its keeper. And for reasons he did not yet understand, Ryan wanted to uncover both. The next morning, the marketplace of Avara came alive once again. The suns rose high above the dunes, spilling gold and white light over the crowded stalls. Traders shouted loudly, offering crystals that hummed with energy, fruit that glowed softly, and tools that could fold into nothing. Children of many species ran between stalls, their laughter mixing with the deep voices of merchants. Ryan moved through the noise with one thought in mind: the silk tent. His feet carried him quickly over the sandy streets until he reached the shimmering fabric once more. The tent looked the same as before, calm and shining, set apart from the chaos of the market. For some reason, it seemed to call to him again. He pushed the curtain aside and stepped in. The cool air brushed against his face, and the sounds of the market faded away. The rolls of silk glowed faintly in their colors, filling the tent with soft light. And at the center, just as before, stood Myra. She did not look surprised to see him. Her silver skin caught the gentle light as she turned slowly. "You came back," she said, her voice soft but steady. Ryan smiled. "I told myself I was only here to look at fabrics. But the truth is, I came back because of our talk yesterday." Myra's large eyes studied him closely. Humans always return when their curiosity is not answered. It is dangerous. Maybe, Ryan admitted. But sometimes it is worth the risk. For a moment, Myra said nothing. Then, with a graceful movement, she walked to one of the shelves and pulled out a length of silk. The fabric shimmered as if light itself flowed inside it. She spread it across a low table. "This is sky silk," she explained. "It is woven from threads of creatures that fly beyond the clouds of my world. Each strand is rare. Too rare to be wasted." Ryan bent closer, careful not to touch. The silk seemed to shift as he looked at it, showing faint images, almost like whispers caught in light. "It's beautiful," he said honestly. Myra gave a small nod but kept her gaze lowered. "Beautiful things can be dangerous too. They draw attention, and attention can destroy them." Ryan straightened and looked at her carefully. He could feel that her words carried more meaning than just fabric. There was something she was hiding, something she feared. "I didn't come to cause trouble," he said gently. "But if the silk is dangerous to show, why display it at all?" Myra hesitated. Her hands brushed over the silk, and the fabric seemed to respond to her touch like it was alive. She looked at him then, her eyes steady, though her voice was quiet. "Because some people are meant to see it. Even if others should not." Her words hung in the air. Ryan felt the weight of them but decided not to press her further. He did not want to scare her into silence. Instead, he gave a small grin. "Well, if I must pretend, I can act like a customer. What would you sell this for?" For the first time, A hint of amusement touched Myra's face. Her lips curved slightly, almost but not quite a smile. You could not afford it? Not with gold, not with gems. Ryan laughed softly. Then perhaps I'll just stand here and admire it? That is free, yes. Myra's gaze lingered on him, and though she did not answer, she allowed him to stay. She turned back to her work, carefully folding silks, weaving strands, and checking each roll as though listening to them. Ryan watched in quiet wonder. There was a grace in her movements, a calmness he rarely saw. Time passed slowly in the tent. Outside, voices shouted and laughed, but inside, there was peace. Ryan found himself speaking again, telling Myra about his travels, about the endless deserts, about the ships he had seen, about how humans always chased new horizons. He spoke with warmth, and though Myra stayed quiet, he noticed that she listened. Her silver eyes softened slightly, as if she was beginning to trust his words. Finally, when he finished a story about getting lost in a storm, Myra said softly, "Humans carry a strange warmth. It unsettles my people. They think it is too loud, too bright." Ryan tilted his head. "And you? Do you feel the same?" Myra lowered her gaze, her voice almost a whisper. "I am not sure." Ryan did not push further. He simply nodded and said, "Maybe warmth is not always a danger. Sometimes, it is exactly what lonely hearts need." Myra froze, her fingers tightening slightly on the fabric. Her eyes lifted, meeting his. For a heartbeat, silence stretched between them. Something unspoken passed in that glance, something neither of them was ready to name. At last, Myra turned back to her work, but she did not ask him to leave. And for Ryan, that was enough. He understood then that he had been allowed to step closer, not just to the silk secret, but to Myra herself. He left the tent that day with a lighter step. The market outside was still loud and bright, but his mind was full of the quiet world inside the silk tent, and the girl who guarded it with her silence. The desert market of Avara shone brighter than usual that evening. Lanterns were lit as the twin suns sank low, painting the sky in orange and violet. Music drifted from one corner, the sound of stringed instruments mixed with the rhythm of drums. Traders laughed, children played, and the smell of roasted fruits filled the air. But Ryan's attention was not on the noise outside. His steps carried him once more toward the shimmering silk tent. By now, he felt drawn to it as if it held a piece of his destiny. When he stepped inside, the familiar cool air wrapped around him. The tent glowed softly with colors of silver and blue, shifting like quiet waves. Myra was there, seated at a low table. Her long fingers moved carefully, weaving glowing threads into a piece of fabric stretched before her. She did not look up immediately, yet she spoke in her calm voice. "You return again, human." Ryan smiled and moved closer, keeping a respectful distance. "It seems I cannot stay away. Each time I leave, I wonder what more secrets this tent hides." This time, Myra lifted her eyes, and there was no annoyance in them. Only a kind of watchful curiosity. "Secrets are not for strangers," she said softly. "Then let me not be a stranger," Ryan replied gently. For a long moment, Myra studied him. Then, almost as if deciding something within herself, she shifted the glowing fabric slightly so that he could see her work more clearly. The threads she was weaving were unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. They glowed faintly, not with simple light, but with images, fleeting pictures that appeared and vanished within the silk. He leaned closer, eyes widening. For a moment, he thought he saw a sky filled with 3 moons, then an image of children running through fields of silver grass. Then the images faded, leaving only the shimmering thread again. Did I just see memories? He asked in wonder. Myra's hands paused, her face calm but her voice lower than before. You saw truth. This silk is alive. It holds the memories of the world it came from. Every strand carries what was seen, what was felt. My people are the guardians of these threads. We protect them, and we keep them from those who would misuse them. Ryan was silent for a long moment, stunned. He had traveled across many worlds, seen many strange things, but never something as wondrous as this. And you, he said softly, you are the keeper of this place. That means you carry the burden of all these memories. Myra's eyes lowered. Yes. It is not a task I chose, but one given to me. I must guard them until I no longer can. Ryan studied her carefully. He could see the weight behind her calm face, the silence she lived in every day. Why are you telling me this? You said secrets are not for strangers. Her gaze met his again, and for the first time, he saw a flicker of emotion in her silver eyes. Because you listened. Because you looked without trying to take. Few do that. Her words struck something deep in Ryan. He felt honored, but also protective. He leaned slightly closer, his voice firm but gentle. Myra, I give you my word. I will never speak of this to anyone. Your trust will not be broken. The tent fell into silence. Only the soft glow of the silks lit their faces. Myra's fingers moved slowly again, weaving, but her movements were calmer now, less guarded. You are bold, human, she said quietly. Too bold. Yet, your words feel true. Ryan chuckled softly. Boldness is something we humans are famous for. Some say it causes trouble, but sometimes it brings people together. Her lips curved faintly, the beginning of a smile that almost disappeared as quickly as it came. Still, Ryan saw it, and it warmed him. The two of them sat in the silk tent as time slipped away. Myra wove glowing strands, while Ryan watched, fascinated by the life hidden within the threads. He shared stories of his travels, of storms in the desert, of human songs sung around campfires. Myra listened quietly, and though she spoke little, her eyes softened with each passing moment. When Ryan finally rose to leave, Myra surprised him. She placed her hand lightly on the silk she had been weaving and whispered, "Do not forget what you saw today. The silk remembers. And so must you." Ryan nodded deeply. I will not forget. Not the silk. And not you. As he stepped out into the night, the lanterns of the market flickered around him, but his heart was still inside the tent. He had entered seeking curiosity, but he left carrying something greater: trust. And in Myra's eyes, for the first time, he had seen more than silence. He had seen the spark of connection. Days passed, and Ryan found himself drawn again and again to the silk tent. The market outside was always alive with noise, but inside the tent, time seemed slower, calmer, as if the fabric itself hushed the world. Myra no longer looked surprised when he entered. Sometimes she greeted him with a quiet nod, sometimes with a soft glance, but always she allowed him to stay. That, for Ryan, was enough. He learned that Myra spent most of her days weaving glowing threads, her hands moving with delicate care. Each thread shimmered faintly, sometimes revealing a glimpse of hidden memories. Ryan often sat nearby, speaking in a low voice while she worked. He told her about Earth, about forests filled with tall green trees, oceans that stretched endlessly, and skies where only one sun set each evening. Myra listened in silence, but her eyes betrayed her wonder. "You humans live with so much sound," she said one afternoon. "Your world is full of waves and winds, songs and storms. My people, we avoid noise. We think silence is stronger." Ryan smiled. "Maybe silence has strength. But sound has life. Sometimes laughter heals more than silence ever could." Myra lowered her gaze, considering his words. "My people do not laugh easily. They think emotions make the heart weak." Ryan leaned back, his eyes on her. "Then maybe they haven't seen what strength emotions can bring. Caring for someone, protecting them, that can be the strongest force of all." Myra's hands paused on the silk. Her long fingers tightened slightly, and though her face stayed calm, Ryan sensed something stirring inside her. She did not answer, but he knew his words had reached her. As the days stretched into weeks, Myra began to speak more, though her voice was always soft. She told him of her childhood, of lessons in silence and discipline, of being chosen to guard the memory silks. "It is an honor," she said, but her eyes carried a shadow. "It is also a cage." Ryan understood. He had seen cages of many kinds in his travels, not only of stone and iron but of duty and fear. He wanted to tell her she deserved more, but he held back. She was opening her heart slowly, like a flower learning sunlight, and he did not wish to push her. Outside the tent, however, not everyone was blind. Other merchants had begun to notice the human who visited too often, who lingered too long inside the glowing silk. Some whispered that the keeper was breaking her silence. Some watched with suspicion. Myra knew this, and it made her uneasy. One evening, as the suns dipped low and the market began to close, Myra turned to Ryan with rare urgency in her eyes. "You should not come every day. My people are watching. They do not trust humans. They will ask questions." Ryan frowned. "And what will you tell them?" Her voice was quiet, almost pained. "That you are only a buyer. That you come for cloth." Ryan studied her, feeling a twist in his chest. "Is that truly all I am to you, Myra? A buyer?" For a moment, she could not meet his eyes. Her fingers brushed the silk, the glowing threads shifting beneath her touch. Finally, she whispered, "You are more. But I cannot say it. Not to them. Not yet." The honesty in her voice struck him deeply. He reached forward, not to touch her but to rest his hand lightly on the table between them. His voice was steady. "You don't have to say it. I see it already. And whatever comes, I will not turn away." Myra's eyes lifted then, silver and luminous. For a heartbeat, the silence between them was heavier than words, filled with meaning too fragile to name. Then she looked down again, hiding the emotion in her gaze. That night, Ryan left the tent with his heart racing. He had felt it, the bond forming between them, strong and unspoken. It was more than curiosity now. More than trust. Myra was not just guarding silks, she was guarding her heart. And slowly, carefully, she was letting him near it. Inside the tent, Myra sat alone after he left. She touched the silk she had been weaving, and faintly, it showed her an image she did not expect: two figures, one human and one of her kind, standing close beneath twin moons. Her breath caught, and she quickly pulled her hands away. But even in silence, her heart whispered what her lips could not: she was no longer alone. The desert wind blew harder that night, carrying dust and whispers across the market of Avara. Lanterns swayed, their lights flickering, and merchants packed their goods in a hurry. A strange unease had settled over the streets, as if the air itself carried warning. Ryan noticed the change the moment he stepped into the market. Traders were not shouting their usual calls, and customers moved quickly, their eyes scanning the crowd. He followed the flow of people until he reached the shimmering silk tent. Its glow was the same, but Myra stood at the entrance, her silver eyes sharper than usual. "You should not be here tonight," she said in a low voice. Ryan frowned. "Why? What's happening?" Myra glanced around before pulling him inside. The cool air of the tent wrapped around them, but it no longer felt calm, it carried tension. Rolls of silk shimmered faintly as if listening. Myra's hands were restless, brushing over the fabrics as though to calm them. "Soldiers are searching the market," she whispered. "There have been smugglers, outsiders trying to steal memory silk. They want to know who is guilty. If they look too closely here," she stopped, her voice tight. Ryan's chest tightened. "They'll question you." Myra nodded, her face pale beneath the glow. "And if they find you here, they will think you are involved." Before Ryan could reply, the sound of heavy steps approached outside. Voices barked orders in Myra's language, stern and sharp. She stiffened, her hands clutching the silk. "They are coming," she whispered. Without thinking, Ryan stepped closer to her. "Then let me handle it." The curtain of the tent lifted, and 3 soldiers entered. They were tall, armored in plates that gleamed like polished stone. Their faces were stern, their eyes sharp as they scanned the shelves of glowing silk. The leader stepped forward, his voice cold. "Keeper Myra," he said. "There are reports of stolen silk in the market. We must search your tent." Myra bowed her head slightly, her hands tight at her sides. "Of course. I have nothing to hide." The soldier's gaze moved past her and landed on Ryan. His brow furrowed. "A human." Ryan met the soldier's eyes calmly, forcing his voice to stay steady. "Yes. I came here only to look at fabrics. I am a traveler, nothing more." The soldier stepped closer, towering over him. "Humans are curious. Too curious. Why would you choose this tent?" Ryan gave a small, easy smile. "Because the silk is beautiful. Even in a crowded market, beauty stands out." The soldier studied him for a long moment, then turned his gaze back to Myra. "We will search." For several tense minutes, the soldiers moved through the tent. They lifted rolls of silk, scanned them with glowing devices, and muttered to one another. Myra stood frozen, her breath shallow, while Ryan remained still, watching them carefully. Finally, the leader spoke. "Nothing suspicious. But we will return. The smugglers are clever." He cast one last sharp look at Ryan before turning away. "Be careful, human. Curiosity can destroy you." With that, the soldiers left, their heavy footsteps fading into the night. Silence returned, but it was not peaceful. Myra sank onto a low seat, her hands trembling slightly as she touched the silk. Ryan crouched near her, his voice gentle. "You're safe. They didn't find anything." Her eyes lifted to his, filled with both fear and something deeper. "Why did you stand in front of me like that? If they thought you were guilty, they could have taken you." Ryan shrugged lightly, though his heart was still racing. "I couldn't let them harm you. Sometimes humans do foolish things for the people they care about." Myra's lips parted, but no words came. She looked at him as if seeing him in a new light. Slowly, she whispered, No one has ever done that for me before. Ryan smiled softly. Then maybe it's time someone did. The silence that followed was different now, not heavy with fear, but filled with unspoken understanding. Myra's silver eyes lingered on him, her guard lowered in a way he had never seen. For a moment, the tent seemed to breathe with them, the silks glowing faintly as if sharing in the moment. When Ryan finally rose to leave, Myra's voice stopped him at the curtain. "Ryan," he turned back. Her voice was soft, trembling, but clear. "Thank you." Ryan nodded, his heart warm. "Always." Outside, the market slowly returned to its rhythm, but Ryan knew things had changed. The soldier's suspicion would not disappear. Danger was closer now. Yet he also knew something else had changed, something within Myra. Her silence was no longer only duty. For the first time, she had let him see her fear, her gratitude, and the fragile strength of her heart. The sun rose slowly over the desert, casting long golden shadows across the market of Avara. The chaos of the morning crowd seemed ordinary, yet Myra could feel unease lingering in the air. The night's events had not faded from her mind, and the memory of the soldier's search pressed on her chest. She knew they might return, and this time, there would be no room for mistakes. Ryan arrived at the silk tent just as the light touched the top of the shimmering fabric. Myra was already inside, arranging rolls of glowing silk, but her hands moved nervously. Her silver eyes flicked toward him, and she gave a small nod. "Are you sure you should be here today?" she asked quietly. Ryan smiled softly. "I won't be far. And I think we can handle whatever comes, together." Myra's lips pressed into a thin line, a sign of her worry. "I hope you are right." They had only begun to speak when the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the market. Myra stiffened. Ryan could see the fear in her posture, though her face remained calm. The soldiers had returned, this time more insistent, their presence heavier. "Keep her, Myra," the leader called, stepping toward the tent. "We must search again. Do not hide anything from us." Myra's heart raced. She knew that if they discovered she had shared secrets with a human, it would bring disgrace and punishment. Her eyes darted to Ryan. "Go, leave, quickly," she whispered. Ryan shook his head. "Not this time. We face this together." The soldiers entered, and the air inside the tent grew tense. Myra moved to stand beside Ryan, her hands brushing over the glowing silks. The leader's gaze swept the tent, stopping on Ryan. "A human, again," he said sharply. "What is your role here?" Ryan met his eyes calmly. "I am only a traveler, curious about the silk. Nothing more. I have seen nothing unusual." The leader frowned. "Do you expect us to believe that?" Ryan's mind raced. He needed a plan, something that could save Myra without revealing the truth. Then he saw the silk, glowing faintly in the morning light, shifting with subtle colors. He smiled, a spark of an idea forming. "Look at this," he said loudly, stepping forward. "These silks, they are not weapons. Not treasures to steal. They are costumes for human festivals. We make them for performances. Only humans understand them. The images are illusions, nothing real. You see memories, but it is only our imagination." The soldiers paused, exchanging uncertain glances. Myra's eyes widened in surprise, her heart racing. Ryan continued. "See? This silk is harmless. Its glow is part of the craft. We humans enjoy making beauty, and sometimes, we like it to seem magical. but it is only art. The leader studied the glowing threads, skepticism written on his face. Then, slowly, he nodded. Perhaps, your words hold truth. We will return to verify, but for now, the tent is undisturbed. The soldiers left, their heavy steps fading into the market. Myra's knees nearly gave way as relief flooded her. She sank onto a low seat, her hands shaking as she touched the silk. Ryan crouched beside her. See? We handled it. No one is hurt, no secrets revealed. Myra looked at him, her silver eyes filled with emotion she rarely showed. You risked everything for me, she whispered. If they had believed you, you could have been taken. Why? Ryan smiled softly. Because no one should face danger alone. And because, you matter to me. Her breath caught. Myra had never heard such words before. Her people spoke of duty, of honor, and of silence. But never of hearts choosing each other freely. She felt warmth bloom inside her chest, mingling with the fear and relief that had filled her moments before. You are not like anyone I have met, she murmured. Neither are you, Ryan replied. But that is why we understand each other. For a long while, they sat in the glow of the silk, words unnecessary. The silks shimmered faintly, as if aware of the bond forming between them. Myra touched one of the threads gently, and for a fleeting moment, an image appeared: two figures, a human and an alien, standing close beneath twin moons, smiling without fear. Myra's lips curved slightly in wonder. Perhaps some secrets are meant to be shared, she whispered, almost to herself. Ryan nodded, understanding. And some hearts are meant to be trusted. As the morning light filled the tent, Myra realized she could no longer hide her feelings. The silk held memories, stories, and wonders, but her own heart had been quietly weaving a story too. One she was ready to trust Ryan with. The desert sky glowed with twin moons that night, casting silver light over the quiet market of Avara. Most merchants had packed their goods and gone home, leaving only the soft wind and the glow of lanterns to move through the empty streets. Ryan walked steadily toward the silk tent, his steps light but certain. He knew this night would change everything. When he pushed aside the shimmering fabric, Myra was already inside. She was arranging threads, her silver eyes catching the soft light. She looked up as he entered, and for the first time, her expression was calm and open, unguarded. You came, she said softly. Ryan smiled. I promised I would. Inside the tent, the air was cool, filled with the gentle glow of the silks. They shimmered like stars, their colors flowing and shifting as if alive. Ryan moved closer, careful to respect the space she had always protected so carefully. Myra set aside the fabric she was working on and met his gaze fully. Ryan. I cannot hide my feelings anymore, she whispered. My people would never understand. They think humans are too loud, too bold. But, my heart, it belongs to you. Ryan felt a warmth spread through him. He stepped closer and took her hand gently, careful and steady. Myra, I feel the same. I came here as a traveler, curious about the silk, but I stayed because of you. I never wanted to leave. Her silver eyes shone with emotion. The silence between them was no longer tense or filled with fear. It was soft, full of trust and understanding. She squeezed his hand lightly. Outside, the market was quiet, but inside the silk tent, a different kind of energy flowed. The threads glowed brighter, shifting gently as if celebrating the moment. Myra touched one of the fabrics, and faint images appeared, two figures standing close under the twin moons, laughing softly, surrounded by shimmering light. She looked at Ryan, her lips curving into a small smile. "We could leave this place," Ryan said quietly. "Take some of the silk, carry it with us. The memories can travel, and so can we." Myra nodded, relief and hope mixing in her gaze. "Yes. Perhaps it is time for the silk to see the world beyond Avara, and for us to find our own path." Together, they gathered a few rolls of the glowing silk. Each thread shimmered, faint images dancing in the light. Ryan helped Myra carefully, ensuring nothing was damaged. Every movement was gentle, full of trust and care. Once they were ready, they stepped outside. The twin moons bathed the desert in silver, and the wind carried soft whispers of the past and future. Myra and Ryan walked side by side, their hands brushing, then holding tightly. The journey ahead was unknown, but they did not fear it. They had found something stronger than uncertainty: trust, courage, and love. As they walked away from the market, Myra glanced back once. The silk tent shimmered faintly in the moonlight, quiet and sacred. She smiled softly, knowing that while the tent would remain, a part of it, the memories, the beauty, and the courage, would now travel with them. Ryan looked at her, his eyes reflecting the glow of the moons. "No matter where we go, we will carry this moment with us," he said. Myra nodded. "And we will create new memories together. Ones we choose, ones that are ours alone." The desert stretched endlessly before them, golden sands turning silver under the moons. Each step forward was a promise to protect each other, to trust each other, and to embrace the unknown together. The silk they carried glowed faintly, threads moving as if alive, showing glimpses of their journey yet to come. And for Myra and Ryan, it was more than fabric. It was proof that hearts could connect across differences, that courage and trust could overcome fear, and that love, quiet, steady, and true, could change even the most guarded soul. Finally, they stopped on a small dune, the desert stretching endlessly beneath the twin moons. Myra rested her head lightly on Ryan's shoulder, and he wrapped an arm around her gently. The glow of the silk tent faded behind them, but its warmth remained, woven into their hearts. For the first time, Myra realized she was no longer hiding her heart; her trust and her love had found a home. And for Ryan, humanity's courage and warmth had proven that even in the quietest hearts, light could shine brighter than any twin sun. Together, they stepped forward into the unknown, carrying the memory of the silk and the bond of two hearts that had chosen each other. And beneath the twin moons, the desert seemed to whisper a soft promise: some stories, once begun, could last forever.